Always about that bad breath smell. It's so much worse than like a fart. It's like if someone farted next to me, I'd be like, what the dude? But if someone's got that bad, like lingering breath, it's like, oh. This is my reaction to it. Inside, obviously not outside. Outside, you're like, it smells great. Smells great, no problem at all.
That smells like ass.
Hello there, yes. The peanut butter is still the best. Magic Spoon, I've been trying out all your other flavors. They're good. I got a cinnamon here, which is my second favorite. Maple waffle, cookies and cream, which is all right. Probably not my favorite. I probably should say I love all of them. The cookies and cream is okay. Peanut butter, it's always the best. It's always the best. It's always the best. I love it.
I love it.
Anyway, look, this video, obviously, brought to you by Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon are the best. They've been sponsoring for a long time. What's the usual shtick that I say? Yeah, cereal. Used to love cereal. Child loves cereal. Childlike love for cereal. Become an adult man. Be like, oh, cereal, oh no. You still taste so good, but you're so bad for me. Why? Why can't I enjoy you anymore? And it's because, oh yes, because you don't want to become an enormous obese man. Ah, good, yes. Anyway, Magic Spoon then entered the picture and like, yo, Simon, you can enjoy all the joy of cereal. In fact, I'd say even better joy because generic unnamed cereals that I loved as a child, now they taste too sweet and stuff. And I'm like, Magic Spoon's just nailed it. I mean, it's sweet, but it's not like, it's probably all in my head because I'm like, I don't need those 900 grams of sugar, do I? Oh God. Basically, Magic Spoon come along and they're like, yo, look, 0 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, 13 grams of protein. It's 12 on some. Look, it's a lot of protein. It's not a lot of carbs. It's no sugar. A miracle. And also, it tastes great. I said that. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, low carb, all of that good stuff. And the flavors. Yes. What's up with the flavors? Normally, they were telling me not to talk about the new flavors because they only do them at certain times. But I guess it must be one of those times, or they're just like entered main rotation now. Because maple waffle is now a permanent thing and it's exceptionally good. I haven't actually tried it this time around. I had it before when it was a special flavor, but it was delicious. Cinnamon, brilliant as well. Cookies and cream. Less one of my favorites. Fruity, chocolate, frosted, the other flavors that are too far for me to reach. So click the link below, you can get some Magic Spoon cereal today. Build your very own variety box and use my code BLAZE and you get $5 off. Choose from best-selling cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cookies and cream, maple waffle flavors, plus other awesome flavors including blueberry and cinnamon. How is cinnamon not one of the best-selling flavors? It's like the second best. I mean, in my opinion. That's sad. And Magic Spoon is so confident with their product that there's a 100% happiness guarantee, so if you don't like it, you get your money back, no questions asked. So click the link below, use code BLAZE, $5 off, magicspoon.com/BLAZE, $5 off. Oh, and also Canadians and Brits, it's now available where you are. Brilliant. And now today's video. Oh, hello there, fellow legends.
Hello there.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Brain Blaze. It's brought to you by me.
Chill.
I don't know why I feel like I'm going into a sponsor bit, which is that absolutely doesn't come here. What am I doing? Danny writes me a script. Incredible lies you've been told about companies. Let's just preface this by that this entire video is fictional. That everything contained within is not real. And just imagine that I'm saying allegedly all the time because this sounds like one of those videos where I'm going to get in trouble. Danny writes it, I read it. Sam afterwards is going to sprinkle in some of the finest vintage memes you've ever seen. Just in case you're new here, I've never read this before. This is all new to me. It's like a journey of exploration that we get to go on together.
That's a little gay.
God damn, this new light I brought is so bright. I feel like I'm getting blinded by it. And it's massive. Like literally, it's like this big. This giant ass.
What?
I turned it up just to see how bright it could go. This is the correct brightness, it seems. I turned it up to see how bright it could go. I couldn't look at that motherfucker with my eyes closed. It hurts how bright it is with my eyes closed. Not even the sun is that bright. The sun! Ah! Holy shit, my eyes are ruined. Lesson 1 in business school. Always name a new company and product after something which has nothing to do with the services you provide. It might sound misleading or confusing, but it will mean that you only attract good customers who've bothered to make the effort to understand what you do, and the riffraff can just go next door. That only makes sense if your product is extremely exclusive or desirable, which comes later. You're going to have some really good marketing. Danny, this isn't the first lesson in business school. I have an undergraduate degree in business. And, I mean, I don't remember dick all about it, obviously, because I'm not very good at business. But I'm pretty sure... Oh God, is Danny making fun of me because my show is called Business Blaze? There's so many layers here. Lesson 2 in business school. Test the patience of your customers by making your material about 6 times longer than it needs to be for similar reasons to haters about me. Danny! Lesson 3 in business school. This is the most important rule by far. Focus heavily on building up genuine trust between your company and your customers in the interest of forging a long-term relationship built on mutual respect and lucrative repeat custom. And try hard to avoid lying to them every single step of the way. Danny, is this your way of telling me that you're leaving? Because I feel like build up mutual, genuine trust between your company and your customers, between me and you. Try to avoid lying to them. I do feel like I don't lie to you guys. Danny, am I lying to everybody? Ah.
You're fucked.
Hello, darkness, my old friends.
The only thing I lie about is keeping you in the basement. It's not true. Or is it? Or is that the lie? Ooh, who knows? Let's say that I took a bit of a gamble in buying a replacement typewriter from a new local business called Broken Spools. I was promised a next-generation typewriter at a bargain price, but when it arrives, I notice that the stubborn machine will only let me type words that appear in the Communist Manifesto.
Name? Address? Gender? What is this, Soviet Russia?
And after just a few days, the whole thing collapses under its own weight. Next time I'm going to the typewriter emporium, they might charge a fortune, but I know I can trust them to deliver the spuds, the hoods, the duds. Well, he's definitely having some trouble with the sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble with the keys at this end. My granny had a typewriter. My nan. She had a typewriter that, it was like this fancy electronic typewriter. And if you made a mistake, you could press the backspace key. And I was like, how does that work? And she's like, watch this. She presses the backspace key. This magical little thing flies up into it and drops a little bit of Tipex onto that. Like Americans call it whiteout. She's like, brrr. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's actually amazing, Nan. Let me tell you about computers. She eventually got a computer. She was very confused by it. It was an expensive computer and I was like quite jealous. I was like, Nan, is your computer better than the computer I have? I mean, obviously, although I didn't have my own computer at that point. Is your computer better than the computer we have at home? And it was. And she just didn't even use it at all. She just went back to her electronic typewriter. And I was like, that's such a waste. And it sat there for years. And I remember going back like 10 years later or whatever. And I remember thinking like about how good that computer was at the time. And then I look at it, it's just over in the corner, completely unused. I'm like, what a pile of shit. It can't even play Crisis. The point is, if a customer's first experience with your business ends in crushing disappointment and a sense of being conned, they're unlikely to make a return visit. So that's what's wrong with brain blood. I've created a channel that is impossible to say for me. Because I'm, not really all there. I don't suppose this really matters if you're running a dodgy restaurant in a popular tourist trap, but in most other cases, the building blocks of trust are a vital element of the foundations of a new business, although nowadays it does matter about your tourist trap restaurant because TripAdvisor is real. And it's like when I go to a place, I'm like, well, I'm going to look on Google Maps. I'm not just going to wander into a random restaurant in the touristy part of town. I'm going to Google Map that shit. It even tells me, like, you're outside this restaurant. It gets 3.2. That! It gets 3.2 and it's got the 3 little dollar signs. So you know it's expensive and shit. You just go somewhere else. The McDonald's has a 4.2 and 1 little dollar sign. That's where I'd go, honestly. I'm very uncultured.
Oh, there's a fucking surprise.
But if all that sounds a bit too much like hard work and effort, console yourself with lesson 4 in business school. Once you've evolved into a massive global corporation, you could just throw trust right out of the window along with all of the corporate tax invoices. Seriously, you could just tell as many shameless, barefaced lies as you like and the world will forgive every single time because we can't imagine a life without Coca-Cola and Big Macs. Yeah, it's like the Amazon argument. Amazon do all this stuff that people don't like and it's like, so don't shop at Amazon. It's like, no, I shop at Amazon. It's like, well, just stop being a hypocrite then. If you're not happy about them paying their workers or like treating them like, functional robots in their warehouses or whatever. I don't even know if it's that bad. I don't know. But whatever. Then don't shop at Amazon. But you will, because it's cheaper. And you know why it's cheaper? You know, you're figuring it out. Don't believe me? It's the truth. Not so fast, Apple. When Apple launched the funky new iPhone 3G in 2008, the marketing came bundled with a simple but compelling slogan. Twice as fast, half the price. Bullshit! Well, the only thing about iPhones that I know is that whenever I get a new one, it's more expensive than the last one, and they somehow still manage it. How the f*** was my last phone over $1,000? Well over $1,000. If someone had told me that 10 years ago that I'd be spending $1,000 on a phone, or $1,500 or whatever the f*** it was, because it's more expensive in Europe, because of course it is, and plus VAT or whatever, I'd be like, no, I wouldn't be. I'd buy something else. And so no, you wouldn't, because you're addicted to iPhone and you don't want to use a shitty Android because they're for poor people.
How dare you?
Just joking, I don't really care. What's not to like about that? And to be fair, the first half of the slogan is pretty accurate. The new iPhone 3G was twice as fast as the original iPhone. But it's the other 3 words in that 6-word slogan that proved to be a little bit more dubious, obviously. The original iPhone retailed at just under $400, while the fancy new model had a retail tag of just under $200. Yeah, but they're going to be like, yeah, it's $199, but you have to sign up for a contract that's $100 a month for like 17 years. I'm no great mathematician, but so far the marketing claim seems to be pretty bang on. But what the advertising did bother to explain is that new terms and conditions from AT&T, who own the stores, from where you'd be picking up the new model. In the past, you could just stump up the $400 for the original iPhone and then hop, skip, and jump out of the store with the freedom to use it any which way you liked. But you couldn't do that with the new iPhone 3G. If you wanted to walk out of the store with a new phone, you had to commit to a compulsory 24-month data plan with AT&T. There we go. I can't believe they made you pay for it. Normally they're just like, yeah, it's $100 a month and you get the phone. The phone's free though, it's free. There was a super dirty practice in mobile phone stores in the UK years ago. It was when I was a kid. And it was like, you go in, get a new phone for free, 24 months contract, blah, 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 and we'll give you £100 cash. You walk out of there, new phone, £100 cash, and a 48-month contract at £100 a month or whatever. And it was just like, so you're exploiting the poor.
No, sir, I don't like it.
Yeah, I can't understand how that was legal. It just seemed like bribery. Absurd. And I'm a capitalist. I believe in free enterprise. I don't believe you should be able to bribe poor people into getting into a contract that they can't afford. That seems like you're being a piece of shit. Doesn't it, phone companies? Doesn't it? And whereas this had previously set you back $20 a month, AT&T had hiked the monthly fee by an additional $10. So, even if you'd previously been happy to take out an AT&T plan, you are now being strung along for an additional $240 over 2 years.
Everything that makes it successful is exactly what makes it dangerous.
Whack that on to the price of the handset, and you're now paying $40 more than you ever did for the original model, a long distance from half the price. It could be argued that not many customers really cared and were certainly upgrading to a much better device, and they were paying less upfront. And some had even suggested that AT&T's rates had nothing to do with Apple, although I would care to wager that Apple were involved in the discussions on how AT&T was going to benefit from flogging a much cheaper phone. But it seems a little distorted that Apple chose to focus on the 50% price slash when they knew that customers were actually going to end up shelling out more in the long term. And this seems like such a mild thing compared to all the other stuff that these mobile phone companies get up to, like the one where I was like, we'll give you £100. That seems way more dodgy than this. And the other curious thing is just how Apple chose to respond to the criticism and indeed the subsequent legal action. A 70-year-old guy from San Diego by the name of William Gillis filed a lawsuit against Apple for misleading marketing. What's he going after that? $40? I mean, there should be a government body like the, I don't know, what's it called? It's got a name in the UK. Advertising Standards Authority. And they'll be like, don't do that. I see you, Apple. I see you, don't do that. We don't need to have a private lawsuit. Just make sure the ASA is doing the job. Report it to them. He had fallen for this kind of thing a few years earlier. Had sued Apple for misrepresenting the size of the hard drives in the PowerBook G4. Apple agreed to settle with him on that one. They covered his legal fees of $7,500 and treated William to a free iPod. I suspect he found something he didn't like about that as well, but he kept it quiet and saved himself for something bigger. Massive. In fact, he wasn't the only one to sue Apple over the marketing of the iPhone 3G, but all the claims appeared to have slowly fizzled out. But the curious bit was how Apple chose to respond to Williams' specific complaint. During the course of a dismissive, snotty-nosed 9-page rebuttal, that's Apple's lawyers earning their money, isn't it? It's like, why? It doesn't need to be 9 pages. But when Apple's lawyers are billing by every 7 minutes or whatever, they're just like, yeah, we could flesh this out to 9 solid pages. Yeah, it needs a lot of research. They spent days in the legal library. A team of lawyers working for Apple. Lawyers, man. Holy shit. It's why I'm always saying allegedly. Because I know at some point, I do media stuff. At some point, I'm going to get in trouble for something I say. I know I am. It's going to be true. I'm going to have to pay lawyers. And it's my brief interactions with lawyers so far, for contracts, anything like that, it's always been oh my God, it's so expensive. And I just know when I'm defending myself or whatever, it's going to be it's so expensive and I don't even need this. Apple's legal team noted that no reasonable person in the plaintiff's position could have reasonably relied on or understood Apple's statements as claims of fact, except that's exactly what reasonable people would do. You said, twice the power, half the price. Seems like you're stating a fact, doesn't it, Apple? Allegedly. This might have been a bit more understandable if it was Bud Light talking about their blatantly outlandish commercials in which they depict a scruffy trucker taking a sip of Bud Light and getting transported to a tropical paradise where he is waited on hand and foot by scantily clad women. I believe that's a callback to an earlier video. But Apple appears to be saying here that you shouldn't even trust them when they're talking about something as straightforward as the price of the product that they're trying to sell you, not unless you're an entirely unreasonable idiot. And that's where it ends. I guess Apple won. Yeah, fuck. Coke bust. Double meaning there, isn't there? Coca-Cola losing out on something, but also cocaine. Cocaine.
Wish I could jump in there and roll around in all that cascading white powder.
Coca-Cola has always had a tough time convincing customers that their beverage should be considered a healthy option for the world-class athlete. I wonder why. Every time they run a sports-themed marketing campaign or launch a Coke workout calculator, some nutter on the internet comes along with a wacky video which shows how pouring a can of Coke over a slab of raw pork causes worms to emerge from the meat. What? That really happened? The last point turned out to be a myth, by the way. And even if it was true, I think that would say more about the quality of the meat than the contents of the Coke. Yes, obviously. Coca-Cola's not magically impregnating meat with worms. Who would believe that? Was that really a thing?
The people are retarded.
But by 2008, Coca-Cola was sick to death of bogus claims that their acidic liquidy sugar might not be particularly healthy. It's not because of worms, it's just because it contains a of sugar. And look, I love Coca-Cola. I'm a huge Coca-Cola fan. But I just drink Coke Zero. And that new formulation of that Zero. At first I was like, this isn't that great. I kind of preferred the old one. And then I realized, it's bloody fantastic. It was time to call in the Mythbusters and set the record straight once and for all. Sadly, we're not talking about Adam and Jamie from the Discovery Channel show. We're talking about very expensive lawyers. This marketing campaign was targeted purely at the Australian market, and the face of the print ad was popular and wholesome Aussie actress Kerry Armstrong. Kerry was keen to tell readers about her.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
Kerry was keen to tell readers all about how Coca-Cola was actually kiddie safe despite any wild rumours that you might have heard to the contrary. Of course it's safe for kids, obviously, just in moderation. Just don't have your kids drinking just don't have a 2-litre bottle of Coke sitting out for your kids to take a hit off. That's irresponsible. Just have them drink normal amounts of Coke. It's okay. Everything in moderation except crack, meth, heroin, other hard drugs. Or soft drugs, honestly, they're probably not for children. Under the banner Motherhood and Myth-Busting, Kerry explained via the medium of infographic that Coca-Cola does not make you fat, and it does not contribute to tooth decay. She also revealed how Coca-Cola is most definitely not packed with caffeine, and in fact contains only half the amount of caffeine that you'll find in a cup of tea. That's news to me. I had no idea that Australians drank cups of tea. Oh, Danny! You're spilling the tea! No, you're throwing the shade. Look at me with all my hip kid lingo. I keep up.
I'm hip. I surf the web. I text. LOL. Laugh out loud. OMG. Oh my god. WTF. Why the face?
Kerry concludes her personal scientific research with the words, "Now that I found out what's myth and what isn't, it's good to know that our family can continue to enjoy one of our favourite drinks. My boys now call me Mum the Mythbuster." This is so cringe. This just feels like the most cringy corporate that I've ever heard. I was watching a documentary TV show that my wife was getting me into. She was like, "You gotta watch this." And I was like, it's interesting. But it's mega cringe, isn't it? It's like they have the stock music running in the background, like, I'm here in the blah blah capital of the world doing blah 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 blah. And I'm like, it's so fake. And they have that thing that is literally a meme, where it's like, hi, great to meet you, Greg. But there's a shot of Greg from behind. Greg's clearly laved up. He's had his makeup done. And it's like, they've obviously been in touch many times before to arrange this. And it's just, isn't this too cringe? Didn't we go beyond this? Like with YouTube and more authentic shit? Didn't we?
No.
Why are we watching this, wife? And then we continued watching it. Because I enjoyed the cringe, I really did.
Oh dear, cringe.
I'm not going to share what it was, because I don't want to throw shade at that TV show.
You're a coward, you know that?
And also I don't remember what it was called. Okay, Mummy Mythbuster, just a few points here. Coca-Cola does make you fat. It does rot your teeth. Danny, allegedly. It's packed with caffeine, certainly a lot more than what you find in a cuppa. Depends how strong you make it, Danny. Despite an initial complaint from the Australian Dental Association, the concerns were dismissed and the ads were approved by the advertising watchdog. However, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, holy that's a mouthful, Australia, eventually felt compelled to step in and pull the plug when they branded the ads potentially misleading and totally unacceptable. And they had a cruel punishment in mind for Coca-Cola South Pacific Pty Ltd. What's a Pty? The division of the company responsible for marketing and technical services in Australia. In response to Coca-Cola's misguided attempts to set the record straight, the ACCC forced the company to roll out a series of full-page advertisements in the Australian press under the slogan, setting the record straight. Oh god, they're gonna have to say we're here to set the record straight. Coca-Cola will make you obese. I used to be thin. And it's presented by an enormously fat man. And with these new advertisements, the company meekly admitted that they'd got the numbers wrong with the caffeine claim. They rather less meekly admitted the obesity and teeth-rotting myths may not have been entirely debunked, as all calories count and all products containing sugar and food acid can contribute to tooth decay. Yeah, but that's like saying oranges will also make you fat and contribute to tooth decay, because they've got tons of sugar in them. And of course they do. And people are Simon, that's a different type of sugar, that's fructose. And it's like, all right, mate, tell you what, you eat 100 oranges every day and we'll see how you do.
You look fruity.
You're going to become a fat because that's a lot of sugar. And I don't care what type of sugar it is, it's sugar. For her part, Kerry Armstrong remained largely tight-lipped about but claimed that there were things that happened that were out of her control. She was reportedly paid around $70,000 for endorsing the ad. It's not her fault. I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty careful about what I advertise because I don't want to be on the wrong end of something like this, but it is easy to not, I don't know, my biggest trick for finding whether a company is a piece of not is to type in the company's name and then type Reddit. And then just, if people have been being this is bullshit, I had a terrible experience, often it's supplements or foods or, stuff like this. And I'm just I go onto Reddit and I just look at the discussion thread, and if there's people being this is a thing, it's really shady, then I'm just pass. And if people are yeah, I had a good experience with this, the science behind that is legit, this is because of this, and I'm green light, thank you Reddit, you're doing my job for me. And that's kind of largely how I stay out of trouble. I don't think I've really gotten any trouble for ads yet. I mean, at some point I'm definitely going to be cancelled for something that I did. I'm almost excited about it. I won't be saying that when it's happening. I'll be oh, my life, why?
There's no one who wants this thing over more than I do. I'd like my life back.
Perhaps surprisingly, nobody seemed to mind too much about the other myth Kerry was supposedly debunking in the original print ad. Coca-Cola was originally made with cocaine. Wait, it was though, wasn't it? I'm sure it's common knowledge now that the original ingredients of Coca-Cola back in 1885 did indeed include an unspecified but probably very small amount of cocaine. Yet Mummy Mythbuster laughs off this suggestion as a comical urban myth which nobody in their right mind would take seriously. Wait, just embrace it, Coke. It's totally okay. I mean, it's why we call cocaine Coke. I don't know if that's true, but that'd be cool though, right? Wouldn't it? To be fair, there was a single drop of truth in the myth-busting campaign, contrary to rumour. The true colour of Coca-Cola is not, and never has been, green. 1 out of 5 isn't bad. Yeah, it is. That's like 20%. That's definitely a fail. If you got 20% on a test, I'd be like, did you try? If you've got multiple choice and there are 5 answers, you'd literally just better off guessing, or the same off guessing. Duck Pond in Detroit. Depending on your perspective, William Frederick Koch, to rhyme with joke. Joke, Coke. Oh, okay, sorry. I guess his name isn't Koch.
What?
William Frederick joke, Coke. Coke! He's either a brilliant businessman, the greatest chemist that ever lived, the smartest quack in history, or the victim of a witch hunt which saw his discovery suppressed by the corrupt forces working for the FDA. Unlike, well, we've seen the FDA's food pyramid, haven't we, guys? That's the biggest joking pile of shit I've ever seen. And it was taught in schools, and it was basically lobbied the shit out of by like different companies that wanted their foods in certain places, and I'm like, that is some corrupt ass shit, FDA. What the are you up to? Allegedly. Unlike the other entries in this video, we can't really accuse Koch of lying directly to the consumer. Instead, he just developed a treatment which he sold to health practitioners across the United States throughout the 1940s and effectively got them to do the dirty work of marketing and dispensing it to the patients. But what an incredible discovery it was, if only the FDA hadn't been so persistent in the persecution of this poor soul. Koch was an appointed professor and later the chairman of physiology at the Detroit College of Medicine. But we can perhaps get an early idea of Koch's medical destiny from the fact that he appeared to be particularly passionate about learning the principle of homeopathy. How many people who went to medical school really believe in homeopathy? It's got to be like 0. I mean, you got to be like smoking the crack. I mean, of course they believe in it to the extent of like a patient comes in and it's like, oh, doctor, I've got this completely made up illness that I just want your attention about. And the doctor's like, oh yeah, great, let me write you a prescription for something that does nothing. So just homeopathic, and here you go, enjoy, that'll cure you. And obviously the doctor's saying that in their head and saying to the patient, great, absolutely, here are some very powerful drugs that are going to fix all of your problems. Back in the head again, get the out. He had a bit of a false start on his way to curing cancer. Yeah, he did. Because he hasn't cured cancer, has he? He's had a false everything. He had a bit of a false... I read that already. In 1919, he had developed a new synthetic antitoxin, which he marketed as a cancer cure that was supposed to be endorsed by the University of Michigan. This was news to the University of Michigan, who went to great lengths to distance themselves from Koch's new antitoxin, particularly after the American Medical Association dismissed the product as fraudulent. Yo. When the university you work for, when the American Medical Association and the... what was it called? FDA. They're not all lying. And also, it's obviously not real. You know why? Because people are still dying of cancer. And if this was a real thing, someone, somewhere, would be making trillions of dollars out of this shit. But Koch wasn't the kind of chap to give up that easily. Oh no, he wasn't. By the very early 1940s, he had discovered a new wonder drug, which he christened glyoxylide. Brilliant. Made it barely pronounceable. His subsequent compound became known as the Koch treatment and was sold via an organization that went under the confidence-inspiring name of the Christian Medical Research League. How about we just keep the religion out of the medicine? I don't feel it's really necessary to be in there at all, or in the research. It would be like the Harry Potter...
Petrificus totalis.
It would be like the Harry Potter Financial Services Group. It would be like, how about we separate financial services from the made-up shit? It's not going to help at all. Designed to be injected into the patient's bloodstream, usually a good route for an injection, the Koch treatment didn't... I mean, of course, I can have like the intramuscle injection, you know, in the... whatever. But it's going in the blood at some point, isn't it? There's lots of blood inside your body. It's how shit spread around in there. The Koch treatment didn't just cure cancer. Koch reckons that it pretty much cured everything, including tuberculosis and pretty much any other illness that you might care to mention, and probably even a few that you didn't. Koch seemed very coy about disclosing the exact process of manufacture of his new discovery, but he was more than happy to sell his secretive treatment to well over 3,000 medical practitioners throughout the decade at around $25 for a 2 cubic centimeter ampule. In turn, the practitioners would sell it to cancer patients for as much as $300 for a single injection of the magic potion. And those people are what we call assholes. So, everyone was happy. Cancer patients were getting cured, and both the Christian Medical Research League and the practitioners were pulling in a pretty penny. At its peak, the Christian Research League was raking in about $100,000 a year. $100,000 a year is a good amount of money. When was this? 1970s, 1940s, so let's say that's a couple of million today. Still, that's a joke compared to how much money I thought it would be. The FDA wasn't quite as enthusiastic though, as they didn't appear to be much in the way of proof that the Coke treatment actually did anything remotely useful. However, although they were convinced that Coke was a disgrace to the medical profession, they had difficulty securing a conviction because the rules were just so lax back then. Unlike with that Andrew Wakefield bellend, he was the anti-vax guy. And they were like, no, your study was a fraud. You're not a doctor anymore. They struck him off the medical register. It's fucking legendary.
You're fucked.
You were preaching so much bullshit that wasn't true. They were like, you're not a doctor anymore. Those 6 years you spent studying fucking hard, you can't do doctoring anymore. You're a fucking disgrace. You're a fucking disgrace, Andrew Wakefield. I want to say allegedly there just in case, but I can't do it. There's nothing alleged about that. There's nothing alleged about that. Fucking monster. Bellend. Oh, shit. I bet he's rich, though, so I should probably watch out.
In a stunning turn of events, a superhero is being sued.
When they first took Coke to court in 1943, the case dragged on for 18 weeks, but the jury failed to reach a verdict. A second attempt in 1946 was declared a mistrial after one of the jurors was taken ill. The main problem seemed to be that Coke couldn't be accused of making misleading claims to the consumer because he didn't use any labeling on his product, which was only sent out to practitioners anyway. Dude, did you loophole the shit out of this? Did you loophole the shit out of your fake cancer cure? You bastard. By 1948, it appeared that the net might finally be closing in on Koch when government officials inspected his laboratories and conducted tests on his treatment, which lifted the lid on the makeup of his magic solution. It was essentially just distilled water. Whoa, distilled water. I don't know what that is. Oh, wait, no, I do. It's just water that's been boiled. Oh my god, this is so depressing.
Hello, darkness, my old friends.
Koch argued that a solution only required 1 part glyoxylide per 1 trillion parts of water. But federal prosecutors later proposed that even if glyoxylide was a miracle drug and nobody really discovered if it ever even existed, this dilution would be akin to dumping a cocktail into the Detroit River and expecting to get a kick from the water flowing over Niagara Falls. Those places are far apart, right? It's also ridiculous. Following the inspection, Koch suddenly announced that his early retirement and ran off to Brazil, where he continued to sell his treatments without any interference from the crooked FDA. He died of pneumonia in 1967, although conspiracy theorists and Koch supporters reckon that he was deliberately poisoned. How could he be poisoned? He's got a miracle cure. It cures everything. Everything. Either way, you'd think that a shot of his own $300 distilled water would have perked him up a bit. Greatest living chemist. My ass. Oh, Danny and I. Feels we're so on the same page for this one, I can feel it.
That's a little gay. Hold on.
Hogwash. A bottle of Listerine is a pretty common sight in the typical bathroom, sitting next to the toothbrush, the soap, the electric nasal hair trimmer, the slug repellent, and the squirrel traps. I feel like after electric nasal hair trimmer, which I absolutely have, we are swiftly drifted into weird stuff. Yes, it's curious how Listerine has managed to maintain its prime position in the bathroom, because despite a long history stretching back over 140 years, we can't seem to make up our minds about what Listerine is even supposed to do. It famously doesn't do anything, right? It's all just not real. It just makes your breath minty. But that's it. So does a mint. The name of the product comes from the English doctor Joseph Lister, who in 1865 went down in history as the first surgeon to realize that washing your hands and sterilizing your surgical instruments with an antiseptic before an operation was good social etiquette. More than just good social etiquette, and reduce the risk of infecting patients you were meant to be healing. He didn't have anything to do with the product, though. When St. Louis doctor Joseph Lawrence first began marketing his new surgical antiseptic in 1879, he named it after Lister in the hope that this might help shift a few more units of the stuff. That's a weird way of doing it, isn't it? It'd be like me being like, who's a famous person who did good? Like Mother Teresa. I'd be like, yeah. I made a thing called Mother Teresa's helpful drops. Do they have anything to do with Mother? No, they're named in her honor. I don't feel that would fly. They'd be like, yeah, you're stealing a brand. And I'm like, no, it's in her honor. It's a tribute. See, it's a tribute. Come on, what the f***? But in those early days, Listerine was a confusing brand with a bit of an identity crisis. Although it was originally intended to be a surgical antiseptic, it was later decided that it was also a mouthwash, and a toothpaste, and an anti-shave tonic, and a dandruff preventative, and a treatment for cuts and bruises and bee stings, and a cure for the common cold and gonorrhea, and even a floor cleaner. Holy shit. So if you were a gonorrhea patient with bad breath or filthy kitchen floor, you just lost a fight with a bee, then Listerine surely was some good news for you. It's often wrongly claimed that Listerine invented the idea of bad breath being seen as a social problem and a medical condition for which they had a cure. Well, it's obviously a problem because everyone's come across people with bad breath and being like, don't get so close. Always about that bad breath smell is so much worse than like a fart. It's like if someone farted next to me, I'd be like, what the dude? But if someone's got that bad, like lingering breath, it's like, This is my reaction to it. Inside, obviously not outside. Outside, you're like, it smells great. It smells great, no problem at all. Inside, I'm like, that like repulsion.
That smells like ass.
It's also wrongly claimed that this is completely false. The truth lies somewhere in between. Bad breath has always been an issue since ancient times when Egyptians and Romans resorted to rinsing out their mouths with piss. Holy shit. But in the 1920s, Listerine, then manufactured and distributed by the Lambert Pharmaceutical Company, dug out a Latin word from the old medical journal which hadn't been heard for a long time, halitosis, quite literally the Latin term for bad breath. They then used this word as the basis for a new marketing campaign which showed how suffering from halitosis was a troubling social stigma. Yes, it is though. It doesn't matter if it's fake or not, bad breath is a social stigma of which you should be deeply ashamed. You don't have to be ashamed of it. Just do something about it. These print ads were often accompanied with slogans such as, they talk about you behind your back. Don't offend others needlessly. Are you unpopular with your own children? Holy shit. I feel like my kids would still like me if I had bad breath. They're kids. They'd be like, Dad, your breath f***ing stinks. And they wouldn't swear. I mean, they probably would. Oh my God, my kids started saying shit. I was like, no, we can still swear around her. She's like not even 2 years old. And I'm like, oh no, she said like, oh shit the other day when she dropped something, and I was like, okay, we gotta work that one. We gotta figure that out.
Oh.
One ad in particular featured the tragic fictional story of Edna, a beautiful young woman who moved in the highest of social circles, but who was crippled by a problem of which she was not even aware. Her breath stank of dead fish and cabbages, and this is why poor young Edna was apparently always the bridesmaid and never the bride. Listerine may not have invented the problem of bad breath, but they certainly transformed it into a pressing medical issue which urgently required a bottle of their solution. That is a business lesson. It's like, yo, business lesson 101, solve a problem. Business lesson 201, make a problem and then provide the solution. And after those first few decades of modest sales, Listerine's annual revenues shot up in the 1920s from $115,000 to $8 million, which is a fuck ton of money today. That's the official term. Based purely on those whiffs of marketing genius. Yet even by the 1970s, the company, now trading under the name Warner Lambert, was still making a bold claim that Listerine could also help prevent and even cure colds and sore throats. It couldn't. We could have predicted that one, couldn't we, Danny? Although Listerine may kill millions of germs lurking in your mouth, colds are caused by viruses rather than surface germs. Yes, they are.
So that was a fucking lie.
And in 1976, the FTC won a landmark case against Warner Lambert, which focused on the company spending $10 million on the high-profile campaign, which forced the company to spend $10 million on a high-profile campaign that finally admitted that Listerine was utterly useless against colds and sore throats. If you see anything that says it's going to prevent you from getting a cold or cure your cold, just ignore it, because it's not true. Especially the vitamin C bull. That still goes around. People are like, oh, just have high doses of vitamin C. It's like, that does nothing. Obviously, having enough vitamins and stuff is good for your immune system, but taking high doses of vitamin C, that's just a crock. Don't believe it. The only minor victory for Warner Lambert is that after months of legal wrangling over the wording, they managed to overturn the FTC's demand to have the praise prior to contrary advertising at the top of their ads, as this was deemed too brutal and humiliating by the courts. Oh, come on, they're a company, they can't feel humiliated, courts. What the f***? Stop treating them like people. Still, never mind, at least Listerine could still be marketed as an effective alternative to flossing. Well, into 2005 anyway. How is it an effective alternative to flossing? You got a massive piece of chicken stuck between your teeth. Oh yeah, problem solved. No. You got to go in there with some floss, don't you, idiots? Following a series of adverts in which a court claimed the Listerine antiseptic is clinically proven to be as effective as floss at reducing plaque and gingivitis, I do know that word, between the teeth. A federal judge ruled that Warner Lambert were clearly taken out of a completely different cavity altogether. Flossing is considered to be an important step in reducing tooth and gum disease, which can't be replaced by a few gurgles of Listerine, and the company was ordered to stop making such unsubstantiated claims. Yeah, because it's bad for everybody. It can't even be said that Listerine is an essential part of your oral health routine. Not legally, anyway. When a radio ad from 2013 dared to use the phrase, brushing alone isn't enough, it was swiftly pulled by the ASA on the grounds that it's not generally accepted by the dental community that using mouthwash is necessary to maintain oral health. If I was their lawyers, I'd be like, no, we didn't mean our product. We meant flossing. We meant interdental toothbrushes. We meant whatever the dentist recommends, not Listerine. You just put that together yourselves. Why would you think that? What we were saying was, brushing alone isn't enough. Full stop. Listerine is a great product. There's a full stop, guys. What the f***? Just call me Simon Whistler Esquire, baby.
You see what I'm saying? You got to think, partner. You don't want to...
What the fuck are you talking about?
So, is Listerine good for anything? Well, it might be good for a mouthwash, although there's still some debate over whether it's linked with oral cancer. Holy shit. An issue which hasn't been definitively resolved either way since the issue was first raised in the 1970s. Really? I've never heard that. And there's always been the concern that Listerine kills all kinds of bacteria within your mouth, even the good bacteria that we need to keep in there. And it would be dangerous to consider Listerine a substitute for good oral hygiene. But according to some happy customers, Listerine can also be used as a nail fungus treatment, a screen cleaner, a flower freshener, and an emergency toilet bowl cleaner. What's a flower freshener? But no matter what anybody tells you, please don't inject it into your eyeballs in the hope that this will prevent the spread of COVID-19. That would be a really bad idea. I'm not even lying. No, you're not, Danny. This has been an episode of Brain Blaze. Thank you so much for watching. And let's keep it brief. I'll see you next time. Massive. Like, literally. It's like this big. This giant ass...
What?